Hi everyone, my name is Audrey and welcome to my channel. Today I'm bringing you my very exciting February TBR. I'm doing this TBR quite earlier than usual because I am not going to carry on any books from last month. I usually wait till the month is over before I actually film my next TBR because I do want to include carryovers from the previous month. But this month, I'm not going to do that at all. So hopefully I'll be able to finish every book I started in January. So the reason why I'm not going to be carrying over any books because I'm going to be participating into readathons. And one of those readathons is huge. I have an immense TBR so far, so I'm not going to add more onto that. So without further ado, let's get into it. The first readathon I'm participating in is the Buzzwordathon hosted by Kayla from Boots and Lala. So I participate in this readathon every month. It is a very simple. Every month you have a buzzword and you just need to read as many books with that buzzword in the title as you can. For the month of February, that buzzword is pronouns. So any book with any pronouns in the title. For this prompt, I have 2 books. The one I'm most interested in reading is Shatter Me by Tahiri Mafi. I'm sorry for the mispronouncing of names. I'm really struggling with this one. But this is not a very recent book. It's the first book of a dystopian series. I used to love dystopians a lot. I'm currently in the middle of rereading the whole Hunger Games series. Because that is one book that made a huge impact on my reading, first of all, but also my life, on me in general. I've never found many dystopian books that I really loved as much as I loved The Hunger Games. They were mostly very disappointing to me, so I'm really excited to get into this one. I've heard mixed things, but we'll see how I feel about this one. It follows this young teenage girl who cannot touch anyone because if she touches someone, they die, if I'm not mistaken. So I do own most of the series on my e-reader. I know that there are novellas in between the main series books. Those novellas, I do not have them, but I do have the main, at least the first 3 books of the series. And I'm quite excited to get into it. The next book for this prompt is Made You Up by Francesca Zappia. This is the author of Eliza and Her Monsters. I love that book so much, so I'm really excited to get into more books from this author. I believe this is a YA contemporary. I do not know what it is about, but from going through the pages, it does seem to have a similar vibe to Eliza and Her Monsters with a different format, and it does look like it's going to be reading pretty quickly. And I have not heard about this book much on BookTube, so I'm always excited to learn about more books I don't know about and that people don't know about either and don't have enough hype around them. Hopefully, we'll see if it's an underhyped book. So those are the 2 books I'm going to try to read for the Buzzwordathon. I don't want to put any more books on there. I do have some other options I could have added on to this prompt, but I feel that 2 books is enough for the Buzzwordathon as the rest of my February reading will be quite intense. So the second readathon I'm participating in is the Blackathon created by Jessie from Bow Ties and Books. This is my second time participating in this readathon. Last year, I enjoyed myself very much. I discovered so many new authors I was not aware about, and I have a very long list for this year, and I can't wait to get into it. Obviously, I will not be able to read everything that's on here because I have way too much as usual, but we'll see how many I can get through. Before we get into the books, I do want to point out that we do not need a Black History Month or a Blackathon to read from Black authors or about Black history. We should read these books all throughout the year, and I do try to do that and read diversely as much as possible. I can always do better though, but I'm really glad that I can take part of this readathon and celebrate Black History Month. I believe this is the 4th year they're hosting this readathon, and this year it's going to be a little bit different. This is a month-long readathon, but there are many ways to participate. If you are interested in participating, I will link the announcement video in the description below. Please go check out Jessie. They're amazing. Their content is amazing, and just go check them out. They explain everything way better than I ever will. But I'm going to only talk about the part that I'm participating in, if that makes any sense. So for the month-long readathon, you have 4 teams that are representing a specific genre, and the team that reads the biggest number of pages of books within that genre will be the winning team. So obviously, I will be in the SFF team, which is co-hosted by Starla and Joyce. I'll also link that channel in the description below so you can check that out. So SFF stands for science fiction, fantasy, speculative fiction, it's the genre that I vibe with the most and that I read the most. So it was just an easy choice for me to do. There's also a week-long readathon and challenges and Instagram challenges that I will not be doing because right now my life is really hectic. So I don't want to pressure myself into many challenges that I won't be able to do. So I will be concentrating on the main monthly readathon. So every team has 3 different prompts and 1 group book to read. For the SFF team, the first prompt is to read a book with the duality of loyalty and betrayal. The second prompt is to read a book with trans spectrum representation. And the third prompt is to read a book that has between 312 and 387 pages. For now, I don't know which books that are on my TBR that will be filling each prompt. So I'm just going to go through my list and hopefully 3 of those books will fit these 3 prompts. So the first book I'm going to read for this readathon is obviously the group book, which is Escaping Exodus by Nikki Drayden. I have ordered this book, so I don't have it yet with me. Hopefully it will be here before the end of February. I have never seen this book, never heard about this book before, so I'm really excited to get into something that is not very well known. And I do know there's a lot of trigger warnings for this book, but that's about all I know about it. And I don't mind knowing not too much. And yeah, I'm excited to have a group read so we can discuss about a same book, and I can't wait to get to it. The second book I want to read for this readathon is The 5th Season by N.K. Jemisin. This is the first book of the Broken Earth trilogy. I have heard amazing things, first of all, of this author, and I've also heard amazing things about this trilogy. I know that Bethany from Bookishly Beautiful Bethany did do a read-along of this trilogy, and she did some live shows talking about these books. So I'm definitely going to watch those live shows once I'm done with each book of this trilogy. I'm really excited to get into it. There is the word betrayal in here on the back of this book. So this will definitely fit the prompt of duality. But yeah, I don't remember what this book is about, but I'm fine with that. The next book I want to read is another book that I just hauled really recently, and it's A Song of Wreaths and Ruin by Roseanne A. Brown. This is one of my favorite book covers ever. It is gorgeous, and I cannot get to this book. If I remember correctly, it's about 2 people that need to kill each other, but they don't know that the other one is trying to kill them. Really exciting. I've heard amazing things about this book. I know that there's a second book to this, and it is out right now, but I don't know if there's going to be more in this series. Yeah, I'm really excited to get into this one. I really had to stop myself from reading it right away when I got it in the bookstore. It's probably going to be one of the first book I read for this readathon. The next one is Witches Steeped in Gold by Sienna Smart. This is one of the books I got from my Fairy Loot boxes from last year. It's gorgeous as well with stencil edges. I've heard mixed things about this book though, so I'm not going into it with too many expectations. Obviously, I'm not an own voice reviewer for any of those books. I will be checking those out before putting in my own review, but hopefully I enjoy it and I just have a good time. The next one on this list is Crown of Thunder by Tochi Onyebuchi. This is the second book to the Beasts of Night series, duology, and I am also going to try to read the first book because this one I've read in 2020. I really loved this book and I do remember most of it, but I did try to read the second book earlier this year and I just could not. I felt like I was missing on some really important details, and it's just been way too long since I read this one, the first one. So I'm going to try to read both this month because I really want to get some closure over this duology. I really loved the first one, so hopefully I'll enjoy the second one as well. And this duology is set in a world that has a very specific magic system, but it's also kind of dystopian in my opinion. So definitely falls in the SFF category. Next, I have The Deep by Rivers Solomon. So I had this book on my TBR for such a long time. I just didn't happen to get to it yet. I have read Sorrowland from Rivers Solomon last year in 2021. I love that book so much. The Deep actually came out before Sorrowland, and I've seen this amazing review, full in-depth analysis of this book from Ashley from Bookish Realm. Her analysis was amazing, the way that she described everything that happened and explained everything and all the metaphors surrounding this book. I loved that review so much. I really have great expectations. I do believe this is going to be a very great read, so I'm really excited to get to it. And on the plus side, I believe it's a shorter book, so it's a win-win. So that's great because I have a lot of books to read this month. And this book follows mermaids that are actually African women that were transported by boat, and they were pregnant and they were tossed overboard. And one of the mermaids has the task to keep track of history and what happened to this civilization. And it just seems amazing. The next one is The Black God's Drums by P. Jelly Clark. So I have discovered this author at the beginning of last year. I believe it was with the Blackathon of 2021. And I read The Janine Caro, The Haunting of Tramp Car 015, and A Master of Jinn as well. I fell in love with this author. It's now a autobi author. I love everything that he does. I really love his writing. And P. Jelly Clark is actually a pen name because this author is a history professor at a university in the States. And he does publish some history books, nonfiction, and he decided to use a pen name to not confuse his usual readers. And his history knowledge really shows in his books. If you have been following me for a while, you know that I just love being immersed in some new cultures and learn about new cultures and be totally immersed. And these books really delivered on that front. So really enjoyed them. The Master of Jinn was more on the steampunk side. I don't know for this one. I believe it's fantasy, but I don't know much more about it. Next, I have Black Leopard, Red Wolf by Marlon James. I did try to read this book last year, and I do have it on my reader. And this year, I'm really going to try to get to it. I've heard mixed things though, but I'm really intrigued to get into it. The next one is A Dread Nation by Justina Ireland. This is a book that has been on my want to read, good read list for a very long time. Like, it was in the first 100 books I put on that list when I first discovered BookTube. I don't remember what it was about, but I do remember it had a little bit of mixed reviews. So I'm not going to go into it with much expectations, but I'm still excited to see if it's underhyped, overhyped. We'll see. If I remember correctly, it is a dystopian. The next one is Riot Baby by Tochi Onyebuchi. This is not a recent book, but I have never read it, and I've heard amazing things about this book. So far, I've been enjoying Tochi Onyebuchi's writing, so I'm really confident that I'm going to like it, and if I believe this one is also a dystopian book. So those are the 10 books that fit the SFF genre that can be counted towards my team's reading pages. I have a lot of books on my reader this month, but I'm really excited about it. I also have some more books that do not fit the genre, but I still want to try to get to. Probably not most of them, but I do want to have the option if I feel like it. So the first book is A Promised Land by Barack Obama. This is his nonfiction book. I haven't really physically read any nonfiction besides schoolwork. Last year, I mostly read them by audiobooks, but I did try to read Michelle Obama's audiobook, but it had a waiting list of like 4 months. And when it got to my turn, I was just not in the mood for nonfiction. And then when I tried to get it back, my account was messed up. And for some reason, I just couldn't get to it. So I passed, unfortunately. I might check out to see if it's available like right now for the month of February and see if I can have the audiobook for A Promised Land. But I don't have my hopes up. Hopefully I'll enjoy reading this nonfiction on my reader. The next one is another nonfiction book, which is Hidden Figures by Margot Lee Shetterly. So this book talks about the African women who were mathematicians and made a huge impact on NASA and the race to space in the 1960s. This is the book that the movie of the same title was inspired by. I watched the movie before, which I really, really enjoyed, and I'm really excited to know more about these women. I think it's just really amazing. I think these women were amazing and they really deserve the hype. The next one is Washington Black by S.C. Edoujian, but I believe it's a contemporary book. I don't know much about it, but I have seen this author in an interview and she seems really amazing and I'm really excited to get into it. I believe I was recommended this book by Ashley from Bookish Realm and I really trust her recommendations. The next one is The Black Kids by Christina Hemmons Reid. I believe this follows a very specific event that happened in the US, but I don't remember what event it is. Honestly, being from Canada, we did learn a lot of things from history classes, but it was mainly focused on Canadian history and history from Quebec, which is the province I live in. We did talk about like things that happened in the United States, but not that much. It was the very basics. So I'm really interested in knowing more about the United States history and some events that I was never aware of. And I'm always happy to learn more about those things. The next one is Lakewood by Megan Giddings. This book has been recommended to me by Jessie from Bow Ties and Books. They've told me that it's one of their favorite books ever. So just knowing that, I'm really excited to get to it. And I believe it talks about medical experimentations. We all know that those things are very suspicious and happened a lot during our history in North America. And I'm really excited to get to that one. The next one is Slay by Brittany Morris. This follows a young teenage girl who creates this very special video game and it's targeted toward young Black teens. There's a murder that happens in real life and no one knows who's the creator of this video game and it goes on from there. I've heard only amazing things about this book. I cannot wait to get to it. And the last book I have on this list is An American Marriage by Tayari Jones. Again, I don't know much about this book. It's one of the first 100 books I put on my want to read list on Goodreads. I don't remember who recommended it to me, but I do remember I got it on my reader. I found it at a very cheap price and I said, why not? It's not a book I've prioritized in the past. It's a contemporary book. Yeah, I don't hear much about it on BookTube. I know it's not a very recent book, but who knows? I might like it enough to try and hype it up. So that's it. Those are the 19 books on my February TBR. That was a lot. I'm definitely not going to be reading 19 books in February, but I'm going to try to get to as many books as possible. So yeah, let me know in the comments if you are participating in any readathon for February. If you have read any of these books, I would love to know your opinions on them. Which one should I start with first? Like and subscribe if you want to. Hit the notification bell if you want to be notified every time I upload a new video. And I will see you soon in the next one. Bye!